I know what men are like around the house at a time like this. I think I'll just take the cue and get along, too.
Oh, no, please, Mrs. Bell. Stay a while. I mean, if you can.
This is Dr. Walter Bell, and I'd like to bring you another transcribed chapter in the story of Empire County. This series is presented to you by the New York State Department of Health and produced by the State Radio Bureau. Today's story, The Long Shot. In Empire City, like most anywhere, you'll find some substantial citizens paying occasional visits to the racetrack or to a monthly poker club. But as Commissioner of Health for Empire County, I'm particularly aware of the surprisingly large number of people who gamble with the health of their children. My wife Norma and I ran into just that about a month ago at the annual bridge held for the Empire City's Children's Camp Fund.
Your play, Walter.
My play? Oh. Norma, now look, Mr. and Mrs. Downs have bid 7 hearts, and it's the rubber game, so please show a little kindness to an amateur, huh? There.
Oh, the queen, Bill.
Okay, dear.
Oh, I knew
no.
it. Dummy's queen is good.
I'm afraid it's a laydown, Mrs. Bell.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah.
Bell, beautifully played. Walter hadn't hesitated on that last trick. You might have had
No,
Honey,
Miss Bell. I've played bridge with my spouse long enough to know that she just had to try a finesse and see if that queen would get by. Joyce is a born gambler, that's all.
I'm afraid to go home tonight, honey. We're 1,100 points behind.
Well, where do we play the next rubber?
We have to wait for the Cartwright's table to finish up. They're just bidding the same hand now. I wonder what they bid on it. That's why doubles is so much fun, you know?
Yeah. Well, while we're waiting, can I get you all some refreshments?
Oh, I'd love something, thanks.
Well, we don't have much of a choice. Coffee and sandwiches.
That'd be wonderful.
All good. 4 sandwiches and coffee. Coming right up.
You know, Mrs. Bell, I really feel so guilty.
You mean because you trounced us so badly?
Well, that, too. But Bill and I actually shouldn't be here.
Oh, that's right. Your baby's only
3 months old this coming Tuesday. But it's not Susan I'm thinking about. We have a wonderful sitter, an older woman. Eleanor's the one who's got me worried. She's the 8-year-old.
Oh, Joyce.
Anything wrong?
Well, Eleanor had a pretty bad cough when we left. I should have stayed with her.
Joyce, will you stop being a calamity Jane? Children have been having occasional coughs and colds since time began. And there's no sense getting upset every time they do.
Oh, Mr. Downs has a good point there. Your daughter's had all the necessary shots, I suppose.
Oh, yes. I'll never forget those shots, even though she had them over 7 years ago. That poor child was subjected to at least 10 injections for whooping cough, diphtheria...
Tetanus, and then the smallpox vaccination. Oh, boy, it was a mess.
Well, thank goodness things are so much easier these days with that triple vaccine. I guess you see the difference with your new baby shots, hmm?
Well,
we haven't got around yet to getting Susan's shots.
You know, it's really almost silly. I mean, after all, how often do you hear of anyone getting tetanus or diphtheria these days? And whooping cough is usually so mild now.
Yep, the scientists and the doctors have really done a job wiping out all those diseases.
Yes, they certainly have, but they're not exactly wiped out, you know. Why, just a short time ago, there was an outbreak of diphtheria in an institution right here in New York State.
Sure, but it's really very rare. The odds are so great against our children getting any of those things.
I told you. Joyce even talks like a gambler. The odds are so great.
But even if the chances are 500 to 1, why should your child be the one who's... Oh, there's Walter. Looks like a broken field runner getting past those tables. Don't drop the refreshments now, Walter.
There was a call for you.
Oh, it must have been my sitter. Excuse me, won't
wait a
you?
minute. Mrs. Wilson took the call and gave me the message.
Yes?
It was your sitter, and she said that your older child was coughing quite badly, and she kept asking for you.
I knew we shouldn't have left Eleanor feeling like that. Come on, Bill.
Yes, sure. You get our coats. I'll bring the car around. I'm sorry, folks.
Oh, sorry.
Good night.
Mrs. Downs, I hope
Good night.
it's nothing serious.
Well, Norma, looks like we have a corner on the coffee and sandwich market.
Gee, Mrs. Downs forgot all about tomorrow, I guess.
What about tomorrow?
Oh, we're both on the list to work in the YWCA thrift shop at 11. I told her I'd pick her up.
Well, there's no sense worrying about it now. I'll call her up in the morning. Norma. Now, what's the matter?
Oh, it's just that... Well, it's what Bill Downs said about his wife being a gambler. He was kidding, but I do wish she'd take her younger daughter to the doctor for her shots. 3 months old. How can people take chances like that with their own children?
What's the trouble, Norma?
Nothing.
Look, honey, you're not going to go on moping just because my bridge game was slightly off tonight, huh?
Oh, no, it isn't that at all, Walter. No, I was just wondering how Mrs. Downs is making out. Whether her older daughter has anything serious.
Oh, it's probably just a chest cold. Anyway, it's her attitude toward the little one that bothers me.
You mean not taking the baby to the doctor for the triple vaccine?
Yeah. There are too many parents who aren't doing that.
They've probably been lulled into a false sense of security by the way major children's diseases have been practically eliminated.
Yeah, but that's not true, you know. Take whooping cough, for instance. Now, that's still a pretty serious disease among young children. As a matter of fact, more babies less than a year old die from whooping cough than any other catching disease, except pneumonia. The younger the baby is when he gets whooping cough, the more serious it's likely to be.
How about diphtheria? That's not nearly as common as it used to be, is it?
Well, it used to be a great childhood killer. Now it's much rarer because of immunization. But it's still dangerous, and the parents must keep up the protection through immunization.
I see. Well, why do they make tetanus the third part of the triple vaccine? Really doesn't occur that often.
No, but it's a very serious disease. You know, 50% of the people who get tetanus die from it?
You mean that every youngster who scrapes his knee should get a tetanus shot?
Well, not if he's already had the triple vaccine. At most, he'd need a booster shot.
Well, what about more serious injuries?
In that case, the doctor probably would want to give a tetanus booster shot.
Walter, is this new triple vaccine really as effective as the old individual shots?
Oh, honey, it's more effective, at least against diphtheria, and very often against tetanus. And remember, even if the child doesn't get whooping cough, diphtheria, or tetanus, and they've had the triple vaccine, the disease will be milder than if he hadn't been immunized. Say, you're seeing her tomorrow, aren't you?
Maybe. Oh, Walter, I couldn't meddle like that.
You could... Women amaze me. Honey, if you're going to let the rules of etiquette stand in the way of protecting the health of a little child...
All right,
what
Walter.
do you mean you couldn't... I just don't understand
what anything more. Oh, hello, Mrs. Downs. I hope I'm not barging in.
Bell, I thought it was Dr. Norton, but please come in.
Thank you. I didn't want to barge in like this, but I called a few times and the line was always busy, so on my way to the thrift shop, I thought I'd see if you still wanted to go.
The thrift shop? Oh, I forgot all about it.
Well, don't you give it another thought.
How's your little girl? You mean my big one, Eleanor? Well, she was asleep when we got home from the bridge last night, but she woke up coughing a couple of times. And this morning she's already had 3 or 4 coughing spells.
Oh, what a shame.
I called Dr. Norton. He said he'd be over about 11.
Well, it's almost that now.
Yes, I know. Then Bill was on the phone with his office. That's probably why you kept getting a busy signal. Bill wanted to stay home and help me, but I finally talked him into going into town.
Just as well. I know what men are like around the house at a time like this. And I think I'll take the cue and get along, too.
Oh, no, please, Mrs. Bell. Stay a while. I mean, if you can.
Oh, well, sure, of course I can. The thrift shop will just have to wait. How's the new baby feeling?
Well, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I was thinking of what you said last night about those shots. Do you really feel they're that important?
Well, yes, I do think so. But Dr. Norton must have told you the same thing.
I'm ashamed to admit it. We haven't even had Susan to the doctor at all. She's been perfectly healthy all along, and... well, I hate the thought of going through all those shots now, especially with Eleanor sick, too.
Well, look, that's what I meant to tell you. It isn't all those shots anymore. With the triple vaccine, well, it's practically nothing. And it protects them against tetanus, diphtheria, and whooping cough.
Just one shot for all 3?
No, not quite. Ordinary shots for the same disease mean 7 separate shots plus boosters. Triple vaccine means only 2 shots plus boosters. And now is the time to do it. Because those diseases are most dangerous to a child like Susie, who's under 6 months. Besides, the shots are less likely to upset an infant than they are an older baby.
Well, I hadn't thought of it that way. Actually, I think Eleanor was over a year when we got around to having the doctor inoculate her.
Well, that's another thing. They found out that more polio cases occur in children who've had shots during the polio season. So, since it's very unusual for polio to hit babies who are less than 6 months old, I should think it'd be best for Susie to start her first shots by the time or before she's 3 months old, and her boosters in a season when polio's not around.
You're perfectly right, Mrs. Bell. I know it. But honestly, if you only knew the trouble we had with Eleanor during those shots. Every time she saw that needle, she screamed.
Well, I don't want to overdo this doctor's wife role, but Walter did mention that is still another reason for doing it soon. You see, Susie's only 3 months old, and at that age, the fear of the needle and of the doctor is so much less than in an older child.
Oh, there are so many reasons why we should have done it. I mean, well, supposing Eleanor's cough is whooping cough. Bad enough for her, but what if Susie catches it? They say it's more dangerous for a baby.
Oh, now, take it easy.
I feel like a criminal. Oh, well, I hope it's the doctor.
Well, it probably is.
Dr. Norton.
Why, yes. How are you, Mrs. Downs?
Oh, I'm fine, but, when can you give Susie... She's only 3 months old, but when can you give her some of that triple vaccine?
What's that? Susan, but I thought it was your older girl, Eleanor, that you called about.
Well, it was. I mean, it is. But you see, Eleanor may have the whooping cough, and Susie never had any shots.
Norma kept in touch with Mrs. Downs, and we ran into her and her husband, about a month later. This time at the Scholarship Fund Bazaar.
Why, Walter, there are Mr. and Mrs. Downs over there.
Hello
there.
How are you?
How's Eleanor feeling these days?
Oh, just fine, Miss Bell. Back at school several weeks now.
Oh, good. It wasn't whooping cough after all, was it?
No, Dr. Bell. Thank goodness it wasn't. Just a bad chest cold, and I'm almost glad it happened. Almost.
Oh, Joyce, how can you say that?
Well, what I actually meant was, if it wasn't for Eleanor's coming down with that cold, I never would have got around to having Dr. Norton giving little Susie the triple vaccine. She's getting the second shot, the last one before the booster, tomorrow.
That's right, and we even saw to it that Eleanor got some booster shots that were long overdue.
Oh.
She fell off a new bike just this past Saturday and gave herself quite a cut on the arm. Wasn't very pleasant, but at least we don't have to worry about her getting tetanus.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad to hear that they both had their shot. You know, you'd be surprised how many parents keep putting it off until sometimes it's too late. Oh, well, this is no place for such serious talk. Come on, Mrs. Downs. Let's see if you can win a Cupid doll at the dart game. Huh?
Okay, fine. I'll gamble on that. But there'll be no more long shots for me. Not where my baby's health is concerned.